Hello.
Hiya.
Hi, Nicola. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Just before we kind of get started, I just have a bit of a script just to read you out, just to let you know what the purpose is of this interview and the and its uses. So, I actually have not really used Zoom that much myself. So, could you just tell me? I'm just going to switch over to my browser window here. Am I sharing the
Yep.
screen with you, or can you not see? Can you see what my browser's showing? Or
No, I can still just see you.
okay, that's perfect because the questions are on it, and I just rather to keep it just to say it to them, say it to you.
Oh yeah.
Also, just excuse me, I'm in my car just because I have to
Alright.
use my mobile data for my internet at home is shocking, so I just I'm use my 4G. Okay, so data. So this interview is being recorded for data collection purposes. The information you may provide throughout this interview will be stored internally and not made publicly available. The information and data gathered from this interview will be used for the development of the jumpAgrade platform. And the purpose is for me to gain a greater understanding of you as a primary user of the jumpAgrade platform. This interview should take no longer than 30 minutes and will consist of questions related to you as a person, you as a teacher, your relationship with technology, your use of the platform, your objectives, and your pain points. I do have a script of questions to work off of, however, it's not that strict. They're more of a guideline for me. I may divert from this script, and if I think something is worth exploring a bit more in detail. At times throughout the interview, I may make some notes. However, this is being recorded for me to analyze later. So my main objective here is to ask you some questions and listen as much as possible to your answers. Even though this is an interview, it's completely informal and it's more of a conversation. So try not to overthink your answers too much. What's more important for me, however, is that you try to avoid answering questions in a rose-tinted manner. So to be as honest as possible. So, for example, when you're speaking about how you use a specific product or technology, try to speak about what you actually do as opposed to what you think you would do. There's 5 question sections, and each section has a different number of questions. So the sections are background and ethnography, general technology questions, relationship with the jumpAgrade platform, your main objectives and motivations, and pain points. So yeah, and finally, if there's anything you're not comfortable answering or talking about, we can just move on to another question or topic. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll just jump right into this because I know this. We don't want to keep it going for too long. So anyway, background in ethnography. Okay, firstly, just for the purpose of this, what's your full name?
Nicola Toomey.
And what's your current occupation?
Secondary school teacher.
Secondary school teacher in what school?
St. Vincent Secondary School in Glasnevin, Dublin 11.
Okay, fair. And do you work full time or part time? I know it's a bit of I actually wrote these questions before COVID, so it's a bit they mightn't be all too relevant. But were you working full time or part time or?
Yeah, full time.
Full time, okay. And how long have you been in that particular job?
In that school, like the end of this school year, I'd be there 2 years, but I'm teaching 6 years.
Okay. And what was your original qualification?
A Bachelor of Education.
Bachelor of Education, okay. And what subjects were you teaching?
Maths and chemistry.
Maths and chemistry, okay. And did you study those two? Like, did you study those 2 particular subjects in university to get that qualification? Were they your only 2, or?
I studied those 2 in university, yeah, but I didn't have enough credits for the teaching council to acknowledge my maths qualification, so I had to go away and do like distance modules to kind of bump up my maths qualification to be able to teach it.
Okay, but you knew like from the start you wanted to teach maths, like, so you
yeah,
know, it was important for you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And Nicola, why did you kind of want to become a teacher in the first place?
Oh God. I suppose I enjoy the subjects I teach, so I would have had an interest in them anyway. My own chemistry teacher would have been really, a good role model when I was in school. But But then at the same hand, I probably had a couple of teachers where I was like, you know, things could be done a bit better and things could be done a bit different. So I wanted to be that person for students in my own position, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a fair answer. Sorry, just 2 seconds here. Okay. Do you have any hobbies or interests?
At the minute.
I suppose we all kind of have something going.
Yeah, going to the gym probably would have been the biggest one. Singing, musicals I would have been involved in.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, and could you describe what a typical work day looks like? I suppose it'd be pre-COVID we're talking about here, but if you want to talk about how it changed in a few weeks after as well, I'd love to hear that as well.
Okay, so pre-COVID, get to work for about 8:15, chill out in the staff room, have breakfast, cup of tea, full day teaching, then might have a couple of classes off here and there to do photocopying or to run to the shop and get a coffee or something like that. At the end of the day then, depending on the day, I might have had like homework club to supervise or supervised study or something like that. But then once I got home, it would be work for tomorrow then, so like making sure I have the right PowerPoints, if there's any worksheets and stuff that I need to have them kind of to hand so that I can photocopy them when I get in the morning. After COVID, it's kind of the same. Obviously the photocopying and stuff isn't as necessary because they're not physically there, but it was still kind of going by a timetable. Like our principal made sure that we followed our normal timetable so that there wasn't any clashes. Making sure that I had all the relevant stuff for them ready, and then in the evenings again making sure that I'd have the stuff the following day.
Okay, fair enough. So like, do you think you could put even like a rough timestamp on how long, we'll say, you spent your typical work day working, I suppose, whether it's in school or when you go home, or, you know, could you think roughly when?
Including at home, I would probably say, what was my normal day? So 9 to 4, we'll say.
Okay.
Obviously not all of that is working. And then I'd probably do another 2 hours, maybe 3 when I got home.
Okay, fair enough. So you're talking maybe you could be working up till 7, 8 o'clock some days, maybe even?
Easily, yeah. If I started straight away, but if I left it till 7, 8 o'clock, it would probably be till 10, 11 o'clock before I packed everything away.
And would you have always been someone that just got the work kind of done, and like you never procrastinated about it, or did you? Or
oh no, I'm a huge procrastinator.
Fair enough. So was there some days that it might be even later than that you could?
Oh, absolutely. Like especially now with the jumpAgrade, because that would kind of be extracurricular to my main job.
Yeah.
The days that the jumpAgrade stuff are due, it could be gone midnight, like by the time I'm packing everything up.
Okay, fair enough. And do you find that a bit of a hindrance, or is it?
No, it's not, because it's my own fault, because I don't start it early enough. You know, I could be chilling out until 7, 8 o'clock and then be like, oh, I should start that.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. And since COVID now, that obviously you're not working in schools, like what way are you teaching? Were you teaching classes? Was it over Zoom meetings, or what was it?
We were using Google Hangouts.
Okay.
Because our entire, like we had the entire G Suite, you know, like Google Classroom and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So by doing it on Google Hangouts, I was able to upload the recording then onto the Google Classroom straight away. So that lads that were missing or were sick or something could catch up on it.
Fair enough. And do you always use the Google Classroom suite anyway, or?
I think I lost you there slightly, sorry.
Sorry, do you always use Google Classroom? Like, has it been something you've been using for a long time anyway?
Yeah, we would use that beforehand anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that pretty much is. Oh, yes, and what do you actually like to do in your spare time then? So just completely not work related. We'll say if you finish your day at 7 o'clock or 6 or whatever, what kind of typically would you do with the remainder of your day?
I suppose pre-COVID it would have kind of been different. I would have been in a strange situation because I was living in Dublin, but I'm from Cork, so I wouldn't have had any like family or friends really around. So then it would have been like Netflix.
Okay.
Now with the quarantine and stuff, and that I'm back home, it would be more like going for a walk, you know, getting outside, and a bit of Netflix and in the evening as well.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so that pretty much covers the ethnography questions. They were just some simple just background questions that just I wanted to learn a little bit more about you. So the next section will be just general technology questions. So are you comfortable with technology, Eugene?
Yeah.
Simple, straight answer. You don't have
Yeah.
any, you know, you don't, you like, we'll say when you have to adapt to a new software or to a new piece of technology that you need to use for your job, like you don't find it too difficult to learn?
No, I just spend a bit of time pressing every button, clicking every menu, clicking every setting, seeing what it does.
Okay, fair enough. You're quite investigative, so in that sort of
Yeah.
way. It's good. Like, what's your overall relationship like with technology? Like, is it like have you always been like that with something since you were even young?
Yeah,
Like,
even like I would be the person in the house that everyone would come to be like, this isn't working. Why that screen is off? You know, I'd be the one to just figure it out.
Okay, fair enough. And what sort of websites and apps do you find that you actually use the most?
In relation to teaching or in general?
Both. If you want to give me general and then teaching, that'd be great.
General, it would be Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, and then for teaching, it will be Google Classroom, Google Drive. Yeah, they'd be the main two. Maybe Kahoot if I was actually in work.
That's actually interesting about Kahoot. So what typically would you actually use that for?
Just the quick quizzes, like if a class finished and there was still maybe 10 minutes left, just give them a quick fire revision kind of quiz on what we had just covered or what we'd finished.
And do you find them actually quite useful? Like, I know that like with a Kahoot quiz, they're kind of, it's almost like you're using it maybe as you're like you said to kill time, but it's quite a fun, interact. It is a good way to get people engaged, like. So
yeah.
Do you find them to be actually quite useful from a teaching standpoint? Like, do you find them quite useful for revision?
Yeah, definitely. Because the lads, like I teach in an all boys school, so they get really competitive, but it boosts them then to actually remember the information because they want to beat the lads because they can see all the scores on the screen and stuff. So it's kind of different to a test because I'd kind of encourage them not to be sharing their percentages and stuff so that they're not making fellas that did crap feel bad. But when it comes to Kahoot, it's all on the screen, so they get a bit of a kick out of it. Like,
okay, yeah, fair enough. And I suppose, do you think that there's a higher retention rate in your class? I suppose. Well, is there higher engagement when you were doing things like Kahoot thing than you would get if you were in a normal classroom setting?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find that there was a lot more people actually like? I personally don't know what it was like to be teaching over Google Hangouts or anything, but did you find there was more people attending in the online meetings than actually
well, the online ones I left it to my leaving certs. I wasn't doing online classes for the others. I was just kind of giving them work remotely and notes and things like that.
Yes.
Because it's really intense, like to be teaching online for like we have hour-long classes. But the attendance wasn't great. Now, it probably wouldn't have been the best in school anyway. You know, like it's a DESH school. Their attendance wouldn't be fantastic, but like my maths class, I should have 17 in the maths class, and I think the most I ever had for a login was probably 8.
Okay.
Average, it was probably 5.
Okay, fair enough. And we'll say, was there any one or two students that you would have known that might have been maybe not that good in class, I suppose? Did you find that they were actually that they were improving a bit more? Like I'm not wording this great, but was there anyone that may have struggled in the class that actually started turning up when when these online classes started coming about? Did they?
I think there probably was one or two, but I don't know, was it to do with the online classes or was it to do with the panic of the predicted grades? That they wanted to be seen to be engaging and trying.
Okay.
So that I'd remember it.
Yes. Yeah. No, fair enough. Okay, and just kind of finally, I did, even though it's a similar enough question to what I did just ask you, I just want to kind of know what's your favorite websites and apps, like what if you could only kind of live with one work app, one teach, and one non-work related app or website, what would it be?
So non-work, it would be Instagram, be the first one I'd always go for.
Okay.
Work related, I suppose the most useful one would be Google Classroom. Now, obviously, I have to make everything that goes onto Google Classroom, but it's kind of an all-rounder, that it facilitates the assignments, results, people that are missing from school, they can catch up on stuff that they've missed and stuff. So
Yes.
it is definitely handy.
Okay. No, that sounds great. Okay, so that's the end of just the general technology questions. So I'll just move on to your relationship with the jumpAgrade platform. So simply, how do you feel about jumpAgrade?
Good. Yeah.
Happy with it? You've kind of never felt too like have you ever had any issues with it or?
No, like they're incredibly supportive. Like the biggest issue, and it's not even an issue, is that they're not teachers. So some of the things that they might try and come up with or that they suggest, I'm kind of like, that's not really going to work. But that's because they don't have that teaching background, and like I'll give them the feedback and they'll always take it on board because they know that I'm from a different perspective,
Yes. Yeah. No, that's great. Like, I mean, that's the whole point of this interview, is that I need to, try to greater understand ye as potential users of it. So that's a really interesting insight that you gave me, that simply they're not teachers. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. So
yeah.
No, that's great. So just moving on, how many students do you actually tutor for?
For the one-to-one submissions, I have 8. Now, at the minute, it's only 4 because 4 of them are leaving certs.
Okay. And just we'll say those 4. Are they hoping to sit their exams? I know that I think 20% of some of the students are hoping to sit the exams at some point.
The 4 leaving certs.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest. I was just told by Susanna that they wouldn't be continuing, so I assume that they're hoping for the best with the predicted grade, that they won't have to actually sit it.
So since the leaving cert was cancelled, you haven't been tutoring of it at the moment?
No.
Okay.
But I have the 4 others that aren't leaving certs. They're still continuing because, like, technically the school term isn't finished yet.
Okay. And so those 4 students, are they, obviously they're not leaving certs, but have they got their own exams that they have to prep for, or?
They haven't. I think 1 or 2 of them have mentioned that they have like an assessment of some sort. Obviously, it depends on the school themselves because there's no kind of set way that we have to do it.
Yes.
But I definitely 2 of them mentioned like my next test is on. So I presume they've something to work towards. Like.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So a lot of these questions you're going to have to probably think of them pre-COVID and now, I suppose. But how many hours in a week typically does jumpAgrade take up for you?
With the full 8 or now with the 4?
With both, if you could.
So before with the 8, you could be talking maybe 4 hours.
With the 8, is it?
With the full 8, yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
now
4 hours across the entire week.
Yeah, but it would be kind of condensed between Monday and Tuesday because they submit on a Sunday, and we have to have them done then by the Wednesday morning.
Yes, so obviously you have to have them corrected, and you have to have a new worksheet prepared for them.
Yeah.
And how difficult or easy do you find creating worksheets?
The worksheets are easy enough as long as they're communicating. So like different schools will do different topics at different times.
Yes.
So if we have kind of exhausted one topic and they haven't communicated to me, oh, I want to revise this, or we've moved on to this topic in school, you'll be kind of plucking your brains to say, right, as a teacher, what would I probably move on to next, or what could I give them?
Yes.
Whereas if they do tell you straight away, you can pick the questions out. Like.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And like, how long typically does it take you to create a worksheet?
The worksheet itself, probably about 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Like, and how do you typically, what's your method? Like, how would you actually go about creating one? I know, like you say, you need communication from a student, but is there any kind of, it would say if you were just given a new student, how would you go about creating their first worksheet?
Well, I look at like the 2 questions that are asked when they sign up is what have they just finished and what topic they're just currently on.
Okay,
so I normally go for the topic that they've just finished, because the topic that they're just on, they could have started 2 days ago in school. So if I was to go straight to exam questions, they probably wouldn't have a well-rounded grasp of the topic, which be really disheartening, for the first worksheet if they can't do anything on it.
Yes.
So I'd always go for the topic that they have done. And then I go to study clicks. And you can separate the questions by topics. So if they just finished statistics or something, I click on the statistics questions, might do a combination of like ordinary and higher level just to gauge for myself where they're at. And then the next worksheet then would be way more accurate.
Okay, yeah. No, that sounds like a very fair, kind of good way of assessing them on the first worksheet. You mentioned the website Study Clicks. It's actually not something I'm familiar with.
Okay.
Dave did show me how typically someone would make a worksheet, and he was just showing me how he would pull questions from a proper exam, from a state exam. So he actually didn't show me anything about Study Clicks. Could you just kind of explain to me a bit more about what that is, or what what's on it?
So you can sign up, the students can sign up as well, so it's useful for them because you can get access to all the marking schemes and stuff, but it's a bit more user friendly because on the examinations website, like the official state exams website, they just do it by year, by subject, by paper.
Yes.
Whereas with Study Clicks, like if I was to click into maths, it would divide it obviously into junior and leaving cert, then it would divide it into all the levels, but then the levels are divided into sections.
Okay.
So instead of just downloading the 2015 paper, I can click on, like I said a while ago, statistics, and it will pull up every statistics question from every year.
Okay.
So it's way easier from a jumpAgrade perspective because it's topic based. So instead of having to root through years and years of exam papers to find the relevant questions, it just pulls out the relevant ones for me.
Yeah. And is it on that website, is it all we'll say all of the questions, are they all state exam, like is all state exams that you're pulling from? There's nothing else, there's no other content on there that's also useful?
There's, for the teacher account, it's all the state exams. They have a couple of sample papers as well, but they're like state sample papers, so they'd be available, they're proper exam papers.
Yes.
But the students can actually sign up for a premium account, and they will have access to the mock papers as well.
Okay. No, fair enough. That's interesting. I had heard of Study Clicks as such, but I just didn't know that it was used in that sort of context. So that pretty much actually covers the next question, but I'll just ask it anyway. What tools or apps do you actually use to help you in providing a worksheet? So how do you actually pull a question off of Study Clicks website and put it into your worksheet?
So I do Study Clicks, and then one of the features on Study Clicks is that it will like make a worksheet of all the questions, but it's all like watermarked and it has headings and banners and stuff like that. So then it's just a case of copying and pasting. If I've exhausted Study Clicks, or if I want to try some simpler questions or some more challenging questions, I'll just use the snipping tool from like a mock website or something like that.
Yes.
And then snip it into Microsoft Word document.
Okay, fair enough. And when you're creating a worksheet, is it all, you'll only use state exam questions, or have you used?
That's what I try and limit myself to, because like the textbooks, they're not, some of them can be way too overboard and some of them can be too simplified.
Yes.
Now obviously it depends on the student. If they're at that stage where we need to build them up, I might go for like a really simple question from like a worksheet, for second years instead of a third year exam question,
Yes.
But the majority of the time I'd go for the state exams. And then especially for the leaving certs, if they've exhausted the state exam questions, I go for the mocks then, because the mocks are kind of notoriously a small bit trickier. So it just pushes them that bit more then.
Okay, fair enough. And you mentioned there as well in the Study Clicks thing that it can make its own worksheet, but that it's watermarked. Is there any way that it can be unwatermarked? Is there a premium feature for that, or?
I don't know, because I just send it, like I take the questions out of the worksheet with the banners and stuff, but the questions themselves will still have the banners, and jumpAgrade remove them for me.
Okay, fair enough.
So they do the hard work.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because I know they review the worksheets before they go out. Okay, so how difficult or easy do you find providing feedback then?
It's easy enough. Again, it kind of depends on the student, if there's no communication about what they found difficult, or if they're not putting a whole amount of effort into the worksheet, there's not a lot to critique, instead of just saying try harder.
Yes.
So it does depend on the student, but generally it is fairly straightforward.
And what would be your process in doing that? Like, how would you currently go about providing feedback when you get a worksheet back?
So I'd kind of have a quick skim through the worksheet just to kind of get a general feel for how they found it. You know, if there's a lot of answers or a lot of scribbles out, a lot of blanks. Then I'll just go through question by question based off the marking scheme. And I don't really correct it. You know, I don't say, oh, you got 8 out of 10 or whatever. I just more look at how they actually answer the question. If it's just a simple critique, you know, that they left out a decimal place or something like that, I'll just do that in handwriting.
Yep.
But if it's a bigger thing that they just didn't get the gist of the question or they forgot a number of items, I'd record a solution then and upload that with the written document.
Yep. Oh, fair enough. And what sort of tools or apps do you use in providing the feedback? So even when you're thinking now about when you're making the video and doing all that, you know, what's kind of your process and tools that you use in that side of things? The technology, tech side.
I use Notability for the written feedback.
Okay.
And then for the videos, like I have an iPad and the Apple Pencil.
Yep.
And I just do a screen recording then of me actually doing the exam question on the exam paper itself.
Okay. Fair enough. And you just do a screen recording of that on your iPad. Okay, great. What is Notability? Is it just some sort of note-taking app, or is it?
Yeah, that's kind of generally what it is. But again, like I'd use it at work as well. You can link it up with Google Drive and Google Classroom.
Okay.
So if you upload a document, it'll automatically update itself. So like I have a document on it now for my Leaving Cert Maths, say on trigonometry. I'll upload the document once, but obviously we could be on trigonometry for 2 or 3 weeks. So every time I make a change to the document, it'll automatically change it on Google Classroom so that I don't have to constantly be uploading change documents and stuff.
Okay. Okay, so what do you actually like about using jumpAgrade? Is there very specific things that you know that are good about the platform, or?
The platform itself, or like the actual whole idea of jumpAgrade?
The platform more so. And how your experience is with it.
It's definitely handier. Like I've been there since the days before the platform, and it's way more kind of cohesive, I suppose, instead of like I would have had to take pictures of all my work and then try and put that in, like merge it into one PDF and then email it, or you know, put it up on Slack, and then things might go missing because, you know, Slack is the messenger forum. So
Yes.
if there was other messages sent in the meantime and there was a worksheet that someone missed further up, and they come back to you on the Wednesday being like, did you ever upload a worksheet for this person? You're like, yeah, it's about 27 messages back there.
Fair enough. Yeah, so when you're talking about the platform now as opposed to the old one, I actually don't, I've only been involved with jumpAgrade with about a year, so I don't know what the old platform would look like or anything like that. But what were the main kind of differences when they updated it? Can you think?
Well, the old way that we used to do it was just through it's basically a messenger forum, so we still use Slack, you know, for communication if a student is cancelling their subscription, or you know, if we needed an update about like the Leaving Cert plans now or stuff like that, we'd still use that, but we just used to upload the documents as a message onto it.
Yes.
So everything was kind of all mixed up together, you know, the messages and the documents themselves. Whereas this, like the new platform, is just solely for the feedback and the worksheet, so it's way, you know, keeps it separate. Like.
Okay. Yeah. No. Fair enough. So what did you find interesting or surprising when you first started using jumpAgrade?
I don't know. Like the platform again, just the website thing that we use.
The whole anything, the service of platform, just anything really.
I think I found it hard at the start because maths especially, you can't really teach just by writing things down. So originally, like before we got around to the idea of video feedback, everything was written. And I remember there was one worksheet, I'd say I was only doing it about a month or two, and I had to give 13 A4 pages of feedback.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, it was very, very time consuming, and I didn't even know from the students' perspective were they going to be able to take all that in. But with the video feedback now, especially for maths, it's way more, you know, like it would be if you were at a traditional grind or if you were in school. Like
Yes, yes. And did you ever do traditional grinds before, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you still do them? Were you still doing them, or is it
Yeah,
just?
I still had one up until COVID because they were in Dublin and I was down here when everything happened.
Yes.
So I still had him kind of in the more traditional sense.
Okay. And would you have maybe have suggested him to do grinds with you through jumpAgrade, or was it?
I actually didn't think of that. No.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's no, that's fine. I'm just curious. Um, okay, so that's that kind of section covered. So we'll just move on to your main objectives and motivations. So
Mhm.
why did you initially sign up to tutor with jumpAgrade?
I suppose when I originally signed up, I had just got the job in Dublin. I was living with my dad up in Laois. So when I was down in Cork, I would have had a really strong, network for grinds. Like
Yes.
I had probably 8 or 10 grinds a week.
Yes.
And word of mouth and people continuing from junior cert to leaving cert and stuff like that. So when I moved up to Laois, I lost all that because I didn't know the community.
Yes.
So I thought this way I didn't need to know anybody and it was still kind of amplifying my income.
Okay. And how did you actually even hear about them in the first place?
Oh God. I think it was an article on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. Either an article or an ad. It might have been an ad.
Okay. Interesting. Kind of what's your main objective when you're tutoring for students? What's the main thing that you hope for them to get out of the worksheet, or get, each week? What's the main thing you want them to be improving on?
I suppose it's just the confidence and the understanding that by watching my video or by reading my words that something clicks for them, and that the next time they come across a question like that one, that they'll remember what we did,
Yes, so you take good satisfaction in actually seeing a difference in
Yeah,
their
absolutely.
confidence, I guess. Okay, no, that's great. What's your kind of main objective then when you're creating a worksheet? Like, do you like you do you want to be continually challenging them each week, or like you said at the first one, you go a little bit easier, but do you find yourself making them continually harder as they go along, or?
Yeah, generally I would. Obviously, it would depend on the student themselves, but generally, like if this week went well, the next week I'd push it a small bit more.
Yes.
So, like I said at the start, I'd kind of do a combination of ordinary and higher level, regardless of what level they're actually doing in school.
Yes.
And if they find the higher level particularly difficult, I'll kind of rein it back a bit just to build up their confidence. And then
Okay.
using the feedback, I can kind of push them towards the higher level questions again then.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I know that this is, sorry, slightly repeating again, but what's your kind of main objective when you're providing feedback then?
I suppose just to help them improve.
Yeah.
That it's understandable, especially when it's written, because it's more difficult to get things across in text. So if it is something that I know a big jumble of words and a jumble of equations, it's not going to register with them, then that's when the video feedback will come in.
Okay. And I know that I probably asked this, or you've probably mentioned it before, but just because it's gone out of my head again, how long have you actually been with jumpAgrade?
Like the end of this school year now, I'll be with them 2 full school years.
Okay, 2 full school years. And is there any particular, like, is there any main reason you continue working with jumpAgrade until now? Because there are some teachers that, there are some people that do fall off from it, or that don't continue with it. Is there any particular reason that you stayed, or?
I think like the main reason that I joined with the ease of getting grinds was probably part of it. That it was kind of guaranteed work going into the next year. And I suppose it's made me rethink not rethink it, but it's added to my own teaching, like with the video feedback and stuff. So
Yes.
like with the exam solutions now, I actually record exam solutions now for my own leaving certs, and I wouldn't have thought of that if it wasn't for having to do the feedback with jumpAgrade.
Okay, very good. And can you just remember when you first kind of started with jumpAgrade, like the time it took from when you first got in contact with jumpAgrade on the website to when you actually first got paid? Can you actually remember how long roughly that was?
I'd say it was probably about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, because I think
Okay.
towards the end of a month, because like we get paid monthly.
Yes.
And I think it might have been towards the end of a month that I started with them.
Yes.
So I'd say I might have got like a week or two's pay, you know, after 2 or 3 weeks, and then it was by month after that.
Okay, fair enough. But it wasn't too, you didn't find that too long, you know,
No,
you know,
no, not at all.
the setup process at the time, you didn't find that tedious, or you didn't think that it wasn't worth it after a month, we'll say.
No.
Okay, great. And just the last question in this section, if you were to recommend another teacher to join jumpAgrade, what would you tell them? And just a follow-up question, like, have you recommended anyone to join jumpAgrade?
Yeah, I have, because like my timetable, luckily enough, like when the feedback is due on a Tuesday evening, on a Tuesday morning, I'm off the first 2 classes. So I'd often do a bit of work then, just to kind of free up my evening as much as possible. So I'd be doing them in the staff room and stuff when I'm off, and there'd be 1 or 2 passing being like, what are you doing there? So I'd tell them, you know, what it is, explain the whole online process, because it's mainly teachers within my own department, like maths or science. So I'd explain it from my own perspective about what I kind of have to do on a week-to-week basis. And then I'd kind of say, give it a go. Like they might see that it looks like a lot of work, but I'd kind of emphasize, like, I have 8 students. So if you sign up, you can kind of tell them how much you're willing to take on.
Yes.
So if that's only 2 students, you know, you can kind of fit it around your own timetable and how much work you want to put into it. Like.
Okay, yeah. No, fair enough. Is there, like, if you could, you know, if you were to give, what is the number one kind of benefit or number one thing about it that you could say, if you were to recommend it to a teacher, what would that be?
I suppose being in Dublin, it's a lot of younger teachers, and I'd say it's an extra couple of quid, like, in your pocket.
Yeah.
For not too much work, you know, it's worth the payoff, like, just for an extra €100 a month or whatever.
Okay, yeah, no, that's interesting. You say that in Dublin as well. Like, do you reckon that there wouldn't be as much of there wouldn't be as much of a benefit to certain teachers, maybe even go out in country schools or in, you know, back home?
I'd say country schools might be a bit difficult because of the Wi-Fi.
Yes.
You know, it is really dependent on having a good internet service, especially with the videos. Like, I even found that in Dublin when I was up there, the Wi-Fi in the house that I was renting wasn't great, and I had to wait until I got to work to upload the videos and stuff, because they take so much time.
Okay.
So you would really need a good Wi-Fi connection. But from a kind of a why would you do it perspective, Dublin would definitely be for the money. Because again, in the smaller communities, you probably have that word of mouth, you know, that you could do them privately. But I suppose, especially like for younger teachers that aren't earning as much, that might not have a car or something, because, you know, traditional grinds, you would be driving to students' houses and stuff.
Yes.
It's, you know, you can do it in bed in your pajamas, like.
Yeah, that's definitely a true point. I'm just looking here. We've been on for about 35 minutes now, and we don't have too many more questions to go through. It has taken a slight bit longer than I anticipated. Sorry about that.
You're
But
right.
there is a slight chance we might get cut off, because I think there might be a meeting limit on Zoom. I'm not sure. I don't have premium or something. But just in case we get cut off, could I just, if I have to rearrange another meeting just for in 5 minutes time, could I just connect again?
Oh, yeah.
To that? Yeah. We don't have too much to go anyway. So lastly, the last section is your pain points. So what do you actually dislike about using jumpAgrade?
I was trying to think this last night when I was going to bed, like, if he asked me about things that I think would need improvement, what would I say? I think from the platform perspective, like from the website, the biggest bugbear for me is when the students upload work, because obviously they're taking pictures of their work. The pictures might not always upload in the order of the questions, and they're all separate pictures. So you kind of have to click into one to make sure it's the right question, and it's total nitpicking. Like, but it would be, you know, if it was just one document, because some students do, like, obviously if their parents are heavily involved, they'll have it like scanned in, and it's one PDF document, and it's just so much more straightforward for correcting, for time consuming. Like, what was anything else? And it, like, again, is it just the website itself, or is it the entire process?
Anything, anything that's a bit of a pain point or bugbear, like you say.
I think a pay slip would be really handy.
Okay.
So, like, obviously, month to month, we should be getting the same amount, but there are some months, and I wasn't aware of it until there was one month I kind of got a bit less than I expected to get. And I contacted them being like, this is what I expected to get, but I only got this amount. Like, you know, what happened, or did I miss something or whatever? And they were like, oh no, with the way that the dates fell, this week's worksheets weren't included, and I wouldn't have known that unless I'd asked, you know.
Okay.
So if there was an actual breakdown of what we were getting paid for month by month.
So do you actually get a pay slip, or is it just
No, nothing.
okay? Fair enough. So you'd like some bit of a breakdown of how the money.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. What do you find to be the hardest part about working with jumpAgrade?
I think it's the time. Like last year, when I was with them for the first year, we had 3 days to get the worksheets. And Wednesday Wednesday evening was the deadline for them to be sent out by Wednesday night to the student, which was really useful. And it probably would be from a lot of teachers' perspectives, because a lot of schools would have their half day on a Wednesday.
Yes.
So I would dedicate my Wednesday afternoon, because it was free, to doing the worksheets, doing the feedback, and sending it all off. But now it has to be done by a Tuesday evening. And like I didn't know that when they got onto me for the second school year, and they were like, oh yeah, how much are you willing to take on this year? And I took on a bit extra, because last year I was doing the commute from Laois to Dublin, but this year I moved up. So I was like, geez, I'll have extra time, because I won't be having to leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. I won't be in the car for an hour and a half on the way down in the evenings. So I'll take on a couple of extra students. And then it was kind of like, oh no, they now have to be done for Tuesday night.
Okay.
So the time between the student submitting and you having to get the feedback back is quite intense, especially if you have a lot of students.
Fair enough. And are you actively looking for a solution to this challenge, or?
I don't know, like, I mentioned it to them once, because I think I was late submitting one day, and I just said, look, the time frame is after narrowing, you know, and it's something that I have to adapt to.
Yes.
And they were kind of like, oh yeah, but you know, we know the deadline is a Sunday, but some of them would upload on a Saturday and a Sunday morning. But at the same time, I was kind of like, I don't want to give up my weekends for this, you know.
Yes.
Especially when I was living in Dublin, I was coming back down home on a weekend, you know, I didn't want to have to be working when I didn't see my family from Monday to Friday.
Okay.
So it is like, from my own perspective, I'm just managing it from my own, like, try not to procrastinate, getting it done on a Monday and a Tuesday as soon as I can, which has obviously been a lot easier with the COVID thing, you know, that I don't have timetable classes and stuff as much. Yep. But it is hard to keep on top of if they want teachers to be taking on a good number of students, you know.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. What do you kind of find? Do you find anything difficult about creating worksheets?
No, like I said earlier, the only thing that would be difficult is if the student isn't communicating about what they're doing.
Okay.
You kind of have to think on your feet to fill the worksheet, but apart from that, it's fine.
Okay, and we'll say when a student isn't really communicating that well with you, what do you actually do to try and improve that communication?
So it's happened to me once or twice, normally with boys and normally with younger students. I actually messaged, I don't know, was it Dave at the time or was it Susanna, but I messaged one of them and I was like, look, they have not written, like, they literally would just send me the answers to the questions and nothing. And I was like, they haven't written anything for the last 3 weeks. So what do I do next? Like,
yes,
I had exhausted everything that I possibly could have. And he was only in first year as well at the time. So, you know, there wasn't a huge amount of work that I could bulk it up with because he was in secondary school for such a short amount of time. So yes, they actually got on to the parents, I think, and the parents then were like, oh, sorry, this is what he's doing now.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And what do you actually find difficult about providing feedback from time to time? Is it again down to the communication errors, or?
Communication errors, and then I suppose some of the students like not taking feedback on board from previous worksheets. Like I had one, it was actually only last week or the week before. So if a student doesn't submit at all, we send them like a video solution to one of the questions just to kind of give them a head start, and then they can see if they can progress through the rest of the worksheet. Okay. So this guy hadn't submitted about 2 weeks ago. sent him a video solution to the first question on the worksheet and was like, you know, hopefully you can try the rest of it. The following week he submitted all the wrong work for the question that I had sent a video solution for. So he obviously just hadn't watched it. And you know, you don't really have control over that because you're not sitting there with them.
Yes.
And have to hope that they're doing the best for them.
Yeah, fair enough. And look, lastly then, just what do you think you would improve about jumpAgrade? If you were told to suggest, if you could improve one thing on it, what would you improve? Or if you can think of multiple things, that would be fine too. But is there anything that you know should be improved?
I don't know. Like from a worksheet and a feedback perspective, I can't really think of anything. I think like the time is probably the biggest thing.
Okay.
You know, the expectations over a 48-hour period when you're teaching as well. You know, when this is your side job.
Yes.
That there can be a lot. There is a lot of work that goes into it.
Okay. Do you think that the obviously you mentioned that the time frame is shortened, but do you think that it shouldn't have been shortened? That it should be like? Do you think it could still be done effectively if it was pushed out to Wednesday?
But I think teachers will, like, obviously any teachers that are brought on this year, they won't know any different. So
yes.
they've adapted to it. But the fact that I used to have 3 days and then I kind of took on my workload this year based on the fact that I had 3 days, it's been a bit intense. So like it just means that teachers will take on less students. So, you know, if there's the demand for teachers to take on more, the time isn't going to allow for it, you know.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's an interesting perspective that you said, just because you've been around when it was at a longer time frame, that it's a bit more of a challenge, I guess. You know, that's a good point. So Nicola, thanks for your time. Where I'm going forward with this is I'm hoping to interview another 9 to 10 more teachers, really, in the same way, to try and gain a greater understanding from a lot of different perspectives. You know, some teachers I'm even speaking to left the platform. So I'm hoping to try and really find as much pain points with the system as possible, so that we can hopefully make recommendations how we can improve it going forward for everyone, you know. So, you know, thank you for your time. Your insights were very very actionable, and hopefully we'll be able to make improvements on it going forward. So
just as you were talking there, I just thought of one thing, and it actually bugs me every single week, so I'm surprised it didn't come into my head straight away.
Go on.
On the website itself, so again, it might be it's not going to be the same for every student or for every teacher, because I have 8 students, but when I upload feedback, it comes down, like, you're used to the website itself, are you?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't looked at it in the last couple of weeks, but yes, yeah.
So when I upload the feedback, it kind of drops to the bottom of the screen, and then I can like upload a different document, or I can attach the worksheet to it. But
yes.
When you say the 8 students, they line up next to each other.
Yes.
If you're doing it on a laptop, you can't scroll across the screen.
Okay.
So until the feedback is cleared, I can't upload the worksheet. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the screen shows, say, 5 students, and the other 3 will be over to the right-hand side.
Yes.
But I won't be able to get to them. Now I can do it on the iPad, but then that means that I have to have the document on the iPad. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, and then you have to go move your document over to your iPad.
Yeah.
Okay, and
that's a pain.
for that to clear, you need to upload the feedback for your first 3 students, I guess, that are on the left side of the column, and then that will bring it over for the other 3.
No, it won't clear until jumpAgrade actually approves them and send them, so I can't do anything about it on my end. Okay,
fair enough. So it can be worked around. It's just a hassle.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's an interesting issue that I wouldn't have thought of myself. So yeah, no, I'll be transcribing up most of these interviews, and I'll be going through all this data with Dave and Susanna back at the office when we get a chance, or online. So I'll definitely be mentioning all that to them. Okay.
Perfect. Yep. Cheers.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Nicola.
You too. Cheers, Darren. Thanks.
No problem. Okay.